Right, politics and campaigning. I see them as both different and the same. They influence each other. I guess I sort of see it as there is a formal politics, which is the House of Commons, Capitol Hill, Dáil Éireann, and an informal politics, which are campaign groups like One Love for All, which I'll tell you about in a minute, and other groups. And though it doesn't always feel like it, the formal politics does actually follow the informal politics. So if you get a mass movement of people in one direction, the politicians, the elected politicians, the formal politics will follow. They have to. Their jobs depend on it for a start. So what you need to do is to build up informal politics, which forces formal politics to follow. So if you build a mass movement against misogyny, including religious misogyny, the politicians will have no choice but to follow it. However, building such a movement is difficult. It's increasingly difficult. And it's difficult when you are not allowed to speak about it. You can't build a movement of people unless you can encourage those people. And the way to encourage those people is to speak to those people and tell them what the problems are, what the issues are, and why they should be opposing it. It is becoming increasing, and I know it sort of sounds like some right-wing Daily Mail rhetoric, but it isn't. There is a lot of truth in it. It is becoming increasingly difficult to speak about religious misogyny. Misogyny is a bad thing. We've sort of agreed on that. But there are conditions. And you have, for example, in Britain at the moment, there's a No More Page 3 campaign, which is on Twitter all the time and has a lot of followers, and I'm not actually going to comment one way or the other on Page 3. There's also a Lose the Lad Mags campaign, again, which has mainstream support. So the misogyny is bad. We've sort of agreed as a society misogyny is bad. But religious misogyny is different. There is no mass campaign against religious misogyny. And this puts us in a tricky spot, because the biggest threat that women face, and this might be controversial, but to me it's true, the biggest threat that women face isn't Page 3 or Lad Mags. The biggest threat that women face is religion. And the same for homosexuals and various other people. So when you are not allowed to speak out against the biggest threat you face, building a mass movement is a very difficult thing. Why is it difficult to speak out against religious misogyny? Because you're not allowed to cause offence. This is a given. I don't know whether it's as bad here in Ireland, but in Britain it is a given. You're not allowed to cause offence. That's it. It doesn't matter how offended you are, you're not allowed to cause offence. And there's a hierarchy of offence as well. So you can, offence is bad, religious offence is super bad. Religious offence when it comes to Islam is super duper bad. You're not allowed to say anything offensive about Islam. This is despite the fact that we have 100 or so Sharia courts in Britain who treat women as less than human. This is a fact. They don't deny it. There's no, this isn't prejudice or propaganda, it's the truth. They don't even deny it. The Islamic Sharia Council, which is the largest Sharia court body in Britain, on its own website, although it's taken it down, have you seen, Miriam? They've finally taken it down. I was surprised they left it up for as long as they did. But they have taken it down now. On their website, they tell us that a woman's word must be worth half of a man's, because you simply can't trust a woman. Women are too emotional. Divorce rights under Sharia law, which is Islamic law, derived from the Quran and the Hadith, but apparently, according to apologists, it's got nothing at all to do with Islam. Women cannot be trusted. This is what they tell you. They're too emotional. The divorce rights rest with men only because, and I quote them, men will think twice before they divorce, whereas women, a little bit dodgy. For a woman to ask for a divorce under Sharia law, she has to pay more than double what the man has to pay. And the reason, and I quote them again, a woman's word must be corroborated. So anything she says, they have to go out and find witnesses to make sure what she says is true. So it costs more. It's more of a kerfuffle. So it's obviously going to cost more. So we do have this hierarchy of offence, and we've seen it again. We've seen it again this week. And I sometimes think, in Christianity, I think in many ways we're going forward, but when it comes to Islam, I fear we're going backwards. We've had it again this week in Britain, two American bloggers who I don't support, for the record, but they should be allowed to speak. They have not called for violence. They have not threatened anybody, but they were barred from Britain simply because they criticise Islam. And this is a regular thing. They were barred, by the way, on the same week that a man from Saudi Arabia came to preach in mosques that it's okay to beat your wife if she is disobedient. So he's welcome. Two bloggers who oppose him are barred from the country. It is really, really very dangerous, and it's getting worse. And it doesn't matter, how offended. This sort of hierarchy of offence, I'll just go back to. I'm offended as well. I'm offended by Sharia law. I'm offended by FGM. I'm offended by forced marriage. I'm offended by all these things, but it doesn't matter that I'm offended. What matters is religious offence, particularly Islamic offence. And it's not, and this point really needs to be made, and I never hear it in public discussion about this. It's not certain actions or certain words by particular Muslims that I'm offended by. I understand that in religion there is a subjective and an objective. Subjective is the believer, who varies as much as human beings vary. But there is an objective in religion as well. And it is the scripture primarily. In Islam, it is the Quran primarily. I'm offended by certain sections of the Quran. I'm offended by the section of the Quran that allows men to beat their wives if they're disobedient. I find that deeply offensive. But I'm not allowed to say so. If I say so, I'm a hate monger and a racist, bizarrely. So we really have to sort out this. We have got to keep shouting out about offence. If you can give it, you can take it. I have never asked for an apology from any Muslim for the fact that I find certain passages of the Quran offensive. And I accept the fact that as a grown-up, I will be offended. That is the price of living in a free society. All I ask is that you take it. If you can dish it out, you can take it. That is all I ask. You're going to be offended. Tough. Get used to it. Deal with it. We have to get rid of this offence nonsense, because we will not be able to build a movement against misogyny which will force the politicians to deal with this unless we can speak and not give a damn who is or isn't offended by it. I'm going to say a couple of things about One Law for All. I'm not going to talk for very much longer, but I just want to we've got some books outside, don't we, Mariam, about One Law for All, and I'm standing in a parliamentary selection in Britain at the moment, and I've come under quite a lot of attack from some within my own party, certainly within my own movement, which is, I'm a left-winger, I'm a trade unionist, I've always been on the left. And it's more disturbing to be attacked by the left, which was supposed to be about equality, racial equality, gender equality, and that's what I stand for. And I'm being attacked very much from my own side for speaking out against religious misogyny, in particular Islamic misogyny. And I'm regularly asked, why, One Law for All. It's, if you go onto our website, no Sharia comes up in the heading. And many of the attacks that I've had in the last couple of weeks have been, well, why is she talking about Islam? Why isn't she talking about this, that, and the other? Well, first of all, in the numerous times that I have criticised Christianity, the Vatican in particular, Nobody ever says, if I criticise the Vatican, nobody ever, not once has it happened, has ever said, yeah, but what about Islam? If I criticise Islam, you can set your watch by it. Guaranteed someone's going to say, yeah, but what about Christianity? You're just a racist. You're picking on Muslims. I did an interview with a trade union recently, and the woman interviewing me actually said, you know, I think you're exaggerating the Sharia issue as an excuse to pick on Muslims. She also said, why do you think Sharia law is such an important matter? I said, well, I think the monstrous treatment of half of humanity is actually quite significant. And her response was, well, first of all, she asked me what I meant by half of humanity. And if she watches this, she's going to know who I'm talking about, and I hope she watches it. After asking me what I meant by half of humanity, she said, and this just sums the whole thing up, she said, well, I'm a woman and it doesn't bother me. Well, no, sorry, I'm wrong. I'm a woman and it doesn't affect me, is what she said. Well, first of all, so much for old-style trade union solidarity. Where did that go? And secondly, it is affecting her. An attack on a woman because she's a woman is an attack on all women. Where did that go? And the very fact that she's okay. You know, the very fact that it's not a problem, I can guarantee you, she'd be marching through the streets if white women were suffering like this. I can guarantee you. But the very fact that she doesn't seem to care because they're Muslim women, they're different. They don't demand the same rights. They don't deserve or need the same rights that we have. Is disgraceful from a trade unionist. Absolutely disgraceful. So One Law for All does come under heavy criticism, which, you know, a friend of mine said recently, the word Orwellian is thrown around quite a lot, but this really is Orwellian. When you are calling for equal rights for all, you're described as a racist. We are in big trouble. The language is being manipulated and abused. So we must keep One Law for All going. Please go on our website, please support us. We want an end to Sharia law in Britain. It is a priority. Women are really, really suffering because of this system, and it is a de facto. It's not, another big argument is, well, it's not illegal. You know, we call it a parallel legal system. People will say, no, it's not, it's ridiculous, it's inside the law, it's arbitration. It's not a legal parallel system, it is a de facto parallel system. It is removing people in actuality, rather than legally, out of the mainstream system. So I will end by saying we have to stop this offence nonsense. Offence is subjective. Everyone can be offended by something. Who cares? Grow up, be offended, I don't care. It is far, far, far more important that we stand up for equality, that we fight misogyny, and if someone happens to get offended by it, well then they deserve to be offended. If you're offended by equal rights, you deserve to be offended. I don't care if you're offended. I really don't. I really will stop now, but I just want to say we keep doing this. Keep talking, keep speaking, don't care who you offend, build a movement, and we need two things to fight this. We need the truth, which is very important but also very dangerous, and freedom of speech. If we have truth and free speech, that is all we need to fight this. Thank you.